Hello, my name is Matthew,
Hello, my name is Tyler.
and this is our Designing a Catapult project presentation.
First, we have the social contract. Basically, same thing as before. Be persistent. Don't goof off during construction. Will eventually, the same as last time. First problem is to make a much better version of our first designs, small ones, and then second, make a much larger design, fitting any 5 by 5 feet area, so it can't be huge, and has to launch 6 by 8 roughly inch pumpkins.
So this is Max's design. He isn't here to join us today. I sent him an email and everything. He didn't join. So he's not here to explain his design, but it looks very interesting, and I'm sure he would be able to explain it if he was here.
This is my design. Basically, a normal trebuchet uses weight to launch the thing, but it has a twist on where the chute actually opens to get as much momentum as possible.
And this is my design. I had this little 3D model I made in Fusion 360. Doesn't look amazing. I was just playing around with the things. Then I sketched out in my journal. And in the very end, I made a design sheet strapped. This is actually sort of Tyler's model, but I sort of made it my own and I put it in Fusion 360. But that's my final design sheet in the end.
First, we have my design, which I tried to make as simplistic as possible. Mathew's design, which is a lot more clear cut when it comes to 3D modeling, and then Max's design, who is not here to explain.
And these are the small catapult designs, by the way. These are separate.
Yes, not the big ones. Plan first was Mathew's design was going to be used for the smaller catapult. It would be much better for that area. And then my design, where the trebuchet was going to be used for the big one. That was changed later, but we'll explain that.
All right, so this is the small catapult design. There's not too much notable things in the materials here. The only thing you need to know is that later on we changed the small hooks into binder clips for better security. We use super glue, and most of the things we actually use hot glue as well. I didn't list that here. And it came out pretty similar to how this design is. The large catapult has a lot of materials. I'm not going to list them all out, but this is our basic concept here in the Fusion 360 design sheet. Like I said, a lot of materials. Anything in red is something we added after we built like the base catapult. So this is the small catapult. You can see we started with a Fusion 360 model. We went to an Inkscape SVG, and this little square here was added later in development to make the catapult point up 30 degrees to put on the bottom, as you can see right here on the right. And then Tyler's first prototype is down here as well, just to show that that was kind of the first thing we had before we did anything. So now the large catapult. How in the world did this 3D model design become this actual catapult? So one thing you might notice is that the base was actually thinned out, which actually made it a smaller design. It wasn't as big. It was easier to carry. We moved the outside plywood cut pieces on the inside. That helped a lot with structural support. Mr. Rowe actually suggested that, I think, or no, we did that, but Mr. Rowe said it was a good idea. We used a metal pole that's de-rusted with an angle grinder. We used a pipe connectors to hold the arm in place, and the arm is just another cut 2x4. And then we also have a custom launching mechanism and a custom thing where you put the pumpkin on it. We'll talk about that later. So in particular, I want to highlight this spring and latch mechanism. So I have the little flow chart on the side here. We drilled a 1/4 inch hole into the block of wood. We secured the spring into that hole. We loosely screwed in a metal plate to pivot around the metal block so that you could press it down on the spring all the way down and latch it in place with the metal thing, and it works really well. We just attached a little string to it. That was actually Tyler, so thank you, Tyler. And finally, we have our results here from the competition we did today. I won't go through everything, but we got an average of 7.7 meters or 25.3 feet, and we had the best accuracy out of all of this. So you can see how we did right here on this chart. So our evaluate solution, these are everyone who helps us out. You might have noticed in the presentation there are, oh, I totally blocked it, but this is everyone accredited in the presentation. All these people helped out. So thank you to everyone on this list. It helps so much with the presentation. And our reflection is, if we were to do this differently next time, we'd do a much better job with communicating and coordinating, and we'd collaborate more in the actual building part. But we're all very proud of our work, and it was a very project to work on. So next up is a video. This is not part of the presentation. I'm just going to attach it along with this presentation, and I hope you enjoy it. It's how we optimized our catapult, and I think it'll be really fun to watch. All right, enjoy.
recording.
All right.
It went out there somewhere. It just disappeared.
What you just saw was the culmination of about a weekend's work of effort me and my dad put into making a bungee-powered catapult. It shot tennis balls pretty well, but it had a harder time with larger, heavier objects like a basketball. At one point, we unintentionally shot a basketball towards our hoop, and while it only traveled a good 8 feet, it almost made it into the goal. I wish I'd got that on camera. Nevertheless, we stuffed it into the car to take to school the coming Monday. We needed to improve the catapult, and my dad had an interesting idea. The catapult arm needed to move as fast as possible, as quickly as possible, so what if it was propelled immediately upon release? To do this, all we needed was an anchored spring and latch mechanism that allowed you to press the catapult down onto the spring, hold it in place, and pull the latch to release it. So on that same Monday, we brought it to school. My dad swung by with a drill press, and we drilled a hole into the block of wood for the spring to go in. The next day, I worked to add a gap for the wooden arm to fit through, and press the spring all the way down. It worked pretty well. Alright, so we got the mechanism working. I think is how you wanted to do it. You just lock it in place here, like that. And then you come over here and simply pull it. Wednesday was when we showed our catapults to the kindergartners. I let them pull the latch and launch it, which they really enjoyed. Really hard, really hard.
All your muscles, ready?
Hey! It also didn't really look like anything was launched, but that's because we were using small candy pumpkins. It's also important that I show you footage of the small catapult we made, because that was kind of the entire purpose of it, to play with the kindergartners. Are you ready? Alright. Anyway, at this point, the catapult was pretty much finished. My dad did come by Friday night and made some adjustments to the mechanism, most notably by adding a second tension producer. In the days prior, Mr. Vo had been suggesting for us to use exercise bands, as they can create a very high amount of tension. Very high it was. We did a dry fire of the thing, which we shouldn't have, and the G-forces shattered the bowl we had been using. Our final mission was to invent a new way to hold the pumpkin, as the bowl wasn't big enough anyway. We at first thought about using a colander, but at this point I'm not sure if we were confident enough to use anything made of plastic. Over the weekend, my dad had an idea. I'll let him explain.
But you're going to need to create a hole, and the way you're going to find it is basically by lining it up so that these guys can sit like that if they need to, and then you can tilt, pivot it however you want. So anyway, that goes through there, and it's going to go through the hole that you make. You go all the way through. Okay, then you're going to need 3 of these. You don't want that tight when you're actually using it, but a little bit loose when you need to adjust it. So now you can set it up whatever angle you want.
Okay, so that probably wasn't the best video, but the point is that it was sturdy and can hold a large object like a pumpkin. The following Monday, I put it in, and that leads us to today, the day of reckoning. We didn't have any pumpkins on site, so instead we used a soccer ball, and I'd say things went pretty well. I don't know if we won the competition, but honestly that doesn't even matter that much to me. This project was so much fun to make, and I got a lot of feedback and compliments while making it. Thank you to everyone who helped out, especially my dad. Before I go, I have one more thing to show you. Remember that basketball launch I mentioned earlier that went like 8 feet or something? So we moved the tape down, and this is now a test. Apparently it goes 5 to 10 feet further.
This is like a lacrosse glove, so it rolls off the top. We weren't sure if it would actually work, so we didn't get to test it before. Are you ready?
Yep.
Look at that.
Yeah, not bad.